Whip versus Raz on League. Wow, they're taking their rivalry to League of Legends. Alright. Let's start it up, boys. PROTOSS versus random. Alright, what did I say about versing random on ladder? Anyone remember? Do we have any diligent students here? Have you missed a class, bro? Playing in chat? Dude, you guys are not real students, man. The first step to defeating. Oh, is this minstrel? Oh shoot! I thought that was polypoid. First step towards defeating random is to not be afraid of random, because you have a 2/3 chance that you're playing their off race, you know. So you're actually ahead if you think about it. So you shouldn't be like mentally defeated when you're playing against random. So you should play like you're the better player. It's a 2-player map, so we're gonna find out their race fast. Looks like it's Zerg. It's okay. So it's gonna be a hatch first. So we can go ahead and try to block it. If we can, that would be great. If not, that's okay. We'll just go and gate gas. And basically what we want to do is just play. I'm gonna just try to show just like the basic style against you know, like a one base PROTOSS PVZ. And honestly, like, it's really not, like, it's hard to learn the style, but I guess what I want to show is that it's not as abysmal as people think it is, mainly because most players in this generation, they've never played against one base, right? So they themselves don't know how to deal with it, you know? So you should kind of take that as like an advantage point. It's 12 hatch. I don't see their third hatchery. I don't know if they're gonna go for. Let's check the other base. We're just gonna go straight into Stargate. I don't know if we can quite get that. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. I'm actually gonna move back home. I'm gonna get Zealot and then Goon so that we don't get screwed by any kind of Ling-All-Ins, because Ling-All-Ins can be very potent if they go 12 hatching, because they just could flood you and they can even bust up your ramp, and that's why 12 hatch is so strong. So you want to be really careful. Check to see if they have another base. I don't really see it. And we're gonna go ahead and use this Corsair to scout. Then when you have the gas, we're gonna go ahead and take a Citadel. Basically, we're gonna play kind of like a Corsair DT style. And your Zealot Goon exists right there to just, you know, deal with any sort of Ling aggression. So we're gonna make another Corsair. It's really just a scout to see what's going on. can probably get, you know, some kills. I see drones going somewhere. There's a hydra den, so it's not a lair play. And then we're gonna go ahead and try to expand. We're gonna try to get a little bit of damage done. I already killed one of those Corsairs, right? And we're gonna go ahead and try to expand. I believe there's another, you know, Overlord out here, so hopefully we can maybe get another kill going. And then we're gonna try to expand as soon as we can. Oh, there it is. I also have a Dark Templar on the way, so basically the Dark Templar, once you kill this Overlord by your natural there, now they don't have Overlord speed, right? If they don't have Overlord speed, they can't do anything about your DT expansion, right? So basically your objective is to like get as much damage as you can get done, expand, and slowly play on with your build, okay? Try to see like what they're up to. So they can try to move out like that, and it can be dangerous, certainly. And now you just basically have to survive. So notice how the Dark Templar just kind of keeps you alive everywhere, right? I lost my Corsairs, and that's okay. Like, you know, sometimes that just happens. And you just basically make a bunch of stuff, and you kind of tech on as usual, right? Like, I'm making High Templars. You want to make sure you get, like, gas as soon as you can, right? Transfer all your probes. And you kind of just play on, honestly. Like, you know, make another gateway, and there's no, like, really strict build order from this point, you know? It's a little bit just kind of like, you just make stuff as you have it, right? So there's nothing to, like, really follow. Like, now that you have your storms, or, like, High Templar, eventually you want to start getting leg upgrades, right? You can try to get some damage done with like this Dark Templar here. So you're gonna get leg upgrades. Now that I have second gas, maybe I can start getting a little bit more, you know, High Templars. I just want to check over here just in case he has another base. He doesn't. And because we know he doesn't have tech, right? We can go ahead and just, you know, like, safely assume that we're not going to face like mutas for like the next couple of minutes, okay? But after that couple of minutes, we might want to consider getting some defenses for mutas. And I'm going to bring this Dark Templar back home, mainly because we want to eventually make a Dark Archon. And at a certain point in time, you want to like start making cannons at your kind of main base and stuff, just so that you don't get caught off guard with any sort of DT play. And you know, at this point, you kind of have a lot of money. Your leg upgrade should be almost done, right? Just keep getting some more upgrades. Get Maelstrom, right? Maelstrom's always like kind of good to get. Oh, did I not make another Dark Templar? No, maybe I didn't. So let's just try to move out a little bit, see if we can get any sort of damage done. If not, that's okay. right? But leg upgrades usually give you some mobility, right? I'm also getting a second cannon because I don't have Corsairs, and also just one at my natural just to be safe, right? And this attack that I'm doing here, it's not, don't think of it as like kind of a crazy like defined timing attack. I would just try to like send it out as soon as you can, but really it's just kind of just poke, scout, like, oh okay, he's got that over there. You know, looks like he just has a bunch of hydras. Maybe that means we need to eventually get a robotics facility, right? Make sure we don't get supply blocked. We're kind of just macroing, right? Eventually we'll need to get some of those, you know, goons. Looks like we have a decent amount of gas, right? Let's see if he has another base over here. He does. Let's kill it. If you can't, that's okay. Kind of just scouting. Looks like he's just playing very, very macro focused, right? And so the game plan from this point on is really just, you know, let's see what we can get done. If you can surround some hydras, that's great. If not, that's okay. But that's just a little bit more of like a cherry on top. That's not something I would like deathly prioritize. And once you have your observers out, then you kind of just move out and, you know, just kind of play on, right? Like, you kind of do just what you would normally do, right? Now that you have, oh, it's not good. Oh, is that mutas? Okay. So now we have, you know, +2 upgrades. We killed all their mutas. Now what, right? They're basically dead. So why don't we just A-move over here? Once we get there, we're gonna allocate our attention to that, right? So we're gonna expand behind this. If they counter and kill this, that's okay. Just let it happen. Sometimes that's okay. Gonna get some free overlords. Target firing is always a good idea. Looks like he actually wants to move forward. Now's the time to focus. We have some High Templar, we have some Storms. Make sure again, you just focus, 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 focus. And I just remade a round of High Templar as well. Let him kill this base, that's okay, and just maybe send like another one. Oh, looks like I lost that, which is not good. He's actually playing like pretty good, but I suspect he's gonna run out of steam. Let's put the base there, and we're just gonna focus on our attack. I guess we should maybe move back here, because like this angle's not great. Oh, I guess I can punish that up there. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and play a little bit more defensively here, just because once your push timing doesn't completely succeed, you do want to be a little bit careful because you're gonna run out of your mining at around 18 minutes, okay? So you don't want to be put in kind of like the situation where you just, you know, basically lose too much to, you know, like you want to make sure you have like another base, you know what I mean? Another good tip to get is like upgrade High Templar energy. Generally speaking, it's just a good idea. You can also like have kind of like this where you leave like 4 zealots at your base if you're playing against an opponent who is constantly trying to take out your things. So once your bases are safe, we can go ahead and try to attack again. We can try to also expand again. Usually this is a good time to double expand, if you can. Maybe we'll try to swing around and go this way. I don't actually know how to play this map very well, honestly. Oh, looks like we caught some units. Let's try to target fire a little bit. Good. And in between fights, notice how I'm trying really hard to macro, like in between when I like really need to, right? So now let's kind of focus on our macro. Let him kill this, that's fine. And because he constantly counters like that, that means he can't have a lot over here, right? But we're gonna be careful. And again, we're gonna allocate a lot of our attention towards just this kind of goon micro over here. The constantly wants to play kind of like this refugee style. But we're gonna just go ahead and punish him, right? I mean, we're gonna lose our base, which is unfortunate. But you know what? That's okay, because he is gonna lose his main base, right? So we do lose a base, and that is concerning. But he loses his main base, and we win. Because if they keep doing this, then, you know, eventually they just die, right? Because they don't actually have a real army at home. So he's playing kind of annoying, but sometimes the way that you deal with this kind of annoying play is to just, you know, just sock them in the face. You know what I mean? And surely he should be dead. I think he has a lot there, so we need to bring some High Templar. Focus on storming. Make some Archons when you can. Got all our units up here. Really, it's just kind of playing on, and you know, this is a pretty sloppy game, all things considered, but it was okay. I'm gonna defend this base because now we just want to make sure we don't get starved out. And that's basically the only way we can actually lose this game. So if we just play kind of turtley, then, you know, I can't imagine we lose this game. Like he did kill all that. But, you know, at this point, if you just play slow enough, then, you know, we're not really gonna lose this kind of game. You have lots of storm. Also, that energy upgrade really does kind of come in handy in these situations. It's really important to just cast your storms, you know? Right, and like, you know, this guy's just griefing. But there's like 0% chance this guy wins. My upgrades are also like decently good. And in these kinds of situations, it is really important to just like defend your bases with some High Templar and Zealots. And just kind of understand that if the game is over, just don't lose your base, you know. Expand if he wants, but usually this kind of Zerg where they kind of do this guerrilla type of style where they just, you know, they really just try to pick you apart left and right, and it is really frustrating sometimes. Just remember that your mining mines out at around but your mining runs out at around 18 minutes, so just be careful to not you know, just be careful to not neglect your third base for too long. So obviously, like, playing PvZ one base is very difficult, but you know, hopefully you kind of just understand how to play like that DT expand, and then you just kind of you know, just play on, right? And it's not good in the grand scheme of things, but it's not that bad either. And you know, notice I didn't really I wasn't very fancy with my Corsairs either. Right? Like, I just threw them away. They just died sometime in the middle when he was trying to attack me. The most important thing about the Corsair is make sure you kill the Overlord that's around your base. There's usually going to be one. There might be two. As long as you snipe both of those, then your Dark Templar can safely allow you to expand. And as you expand, it's going to put Zerg in this weird position where they don't know whether to make drones or to try to bust, right? If they bust you making hydras, then they're gonna fall back behind on eco, right? Kind of like how they did in that game right there. And if they don't pressure you at all, then you safely just go and tech, so. All right, we got B rank Zerg. This time we can just go ahead and play a normal Forge Fest expand. And we're gonna basically do a similar concept as last game, just with a more stable build, assuming our opponent lets us do that. We're gonna send our 8th probe down into the ramp. It's polypoid. This map you can use this kind of wall. There's always a lot of different kinds of walls people can use. So like forge, gateway. Ideally, it's good to have a 2-gap wall when you're, it's like a horizontal wall like this. And generally speaking, horizontal walls are better because it allows you to play gate expand a little bit more aggressively, or generally speaking, you just need one fewer unit to block off the wall. In addition, it's harder for 973 to snipe your forge when it's vertical like that. So you should kind of consider this mentally to be at least somewhat of an advantage, albeit a small advantage. Somewhat of an advantage that you have a vertical wall relative to a horizontal wall. So we're gonna go ahead and double scout. Okay, we found him, so we don't need to double scout because he's sending his overlord over there. So we're gonna bring this one back. So we should know exactly what we're up against. We're cross spawns. Let's see if we need to make a cannon. But because I let go of my... Okay, look at that. There's no thing yet. Probably is an overpull. Yep, that's an overpull. And against overpull, cross spawns, and you know that it's an overpull when their hatchery comes down at around 2 minutes, right? Usually the right play would be to follow the drone immediately so that you could block the hatchery from being made, but I decided not to do that. I got the Nexus before the cannon because I can get away with it on this kind of map, and because it's cross spawns. If it's a short distance and you're adjacent, then you want to make sure you build the cannon first. This is going to vary a lot by map though, right? Some maps you can get away with it, other maps you can't, and it's really just a matter of knowing them. And there's really no shortcut, unfortunately. So we make the gateway. I like to make a pylon right at 16. And you're gonna try to keep your probe alive as long as you can. It looks like it's about to die, unfortunately. And honestly, the best thing to do, which feels bad sometimes, is send another probe out. I know it's not economically very nice, but I promise you the extra scouting information is going to be worth it. And it's just going to help you to navigate the matchup a little bit more, with more stability, okay? So we can go ahead and like hide it. Maybe what we can do is we can bring out that probe, maybe in about a minute. Just so that we can see if we're up against a Hydra bust or not. And so, the most important thing here is we want to make sure we make probes non-stop. And you can try to make a zealot production non-stop. You might not always be able to get there, but just try your best. It's okay to have, a little bit small delays. And for this build, we're going to go ahead and make a +1 weapons right when we have 100 gas. And I'm going to send my probe into their main base now. See if we can get any scouting information. Once the cyber core is done, we're going to go ahead and make a citadel, because we're going to go for a very aggressive zealot push. And then as we're still making probes, the most important thing is to make sure you have constant probe production until at least 6 or 7 minutes, okay? 6 or 7 minutes. See if we can get in. Oh, I think, can we get in? Maybe. He has a lair. Okay. So now we are safe. After the second gateway, make sure you get a second gas, because we're going to be teching into Templars. I like making a second pylon around my natural as well. Well, this is just a newbie build that I'm doing, Bagel Pirate. I don't recommend this to be like a great build, but I just, it's just a very good build to use at the lower ranks. I like to make a second cannon as well. Now you don't have to, because we already scouted that there's no hydras on the way, but it's good practice, especially as you get better and better. 2 cannons are good, because once better Zergs start to, they will start punishing you with Ling run-bys, and you want to make sure you have a 2nd cannon to at least not die to that, okay? So we're going to make units non-stop, and once you have the money, you're going to make Templar Archives, but until then, you're really prioritizing Zealot production, because you want to make sure you have enough Zealots for your first move out, okay? If he's a good Zerg, he will know that this is a Zealot move out based on my +1 timing, okay? We also want to get a cannon, and then when we move out, we're actually going to get a 2nd cannon, because we don't have any anti-air. We also need to get a cannon at the natural, and we can go ahead and start moving out, because our leg upgrades are almost done. Make a 2nd cannon just in case they, you know, muta, you know, counter. We'll make 4 gateways. And here's what we're gonna do. These 2 zealots, move them into their mineral line, and then behind this, we're gonna make, oops, I'm supply blocked. That's not good, but I was gonna say, let's make 2 High Templars. Oh, looks like I'm going in the wrong direction. I don't know where their base is. Oh, okay, this is not working out well for me. Okay, we want to make a 2nd cannon over here as well. That was unfortunate because I didn't know where his base was. But let's just say this is worst case scenario, where you basically run out like that and you get nothing done. And sometimes that's gonna happen. And against a good Zerg, we'd basically be just about dead. But we're gonna have faith. We're gonna make an Archon immediately, move up to 8 gateways. Around this time, you most certainly should have about 45 probes. And use that to kind of poke away your opponents. You want to make sure you at least have, you know, a few High Templars alive, right? And this Archon is going to be able to zone out your opponent's mutas. It's only until when they get to like around S rank where their muta control starts getting really good, where you really have to worry about it, right? But as long as you kind of just zone these out, you should be okay. After you get some of those, we're going to go ahead and make a Dark Archon. And we're going to continue to make Zealots. And we're basically just going to wait for a giant push, okay? This is primarily because, unfortunately, we got nothing done with our initial Zealots. That's mainly my bad because I didn't know where his army was. Once you have Storm, we're going to go ahead and get Maelstrom. Try to get this stray, you know, muta every time you can. Slowly build up to goon range, right? Slowly make robotics, 9 minutes, right? So we're slowly just kind of getting everything we need to get to where we need to. And be very patient, right? Very patient. You can even push out. Oftentimes at the lower ranks, they have a hard time microing against an Archon, even if they have mutas, okay? And a good rule of thumb that I like to have in general is, like, once you have 400 gas, you can go ahead and make a bunch of units non-stop. Dragoon, 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 Dragoon. I can't make it from there because I'm gonna get blocked. I have Maelstrom now. I should be able to storm, 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 storm. Storm. We want to remake. Every time you lose High Templars, you do want to remake them, just for safety. Storm. And, you know, continue with 8-gate production. And around this time, we're going to go ahead and expand. Just because we took a lot of damage, but we actually dealt more damage, so we're actually in an advantageous spot. And again, if they decide to get really stubborn, then let them get stubborn, right? In this case, we can be in a defensive stance. We're gonna go ahead and try to expand. And because we have the army advantage, we can almost, you know, kind of play this very straightforward. A move, you know, try to get as much damage as you can get done. Looks like he just constantly is just sending more units, and this can be really frustrating, definitely. Certainly is, but maybe just kind of like, the point here is they're not making any drones. If they're not making any drones, then as long as you play very stable and safe, then you should be really okay. Right? And it's really hard for them to do much like on high ground like this, especially on a map like Polypoid. And because we know that they've been making so many units, they can't really have that much macro behind us, right? So usually we would push out right away, but we don't have a ton of storm, right? I would also start making more workers as you make your third base. That's just like kind of a good heuristic. And you can send about, you know, 12 workers each. And slowly build up your kind of critical mass, so to speak. Again, around this time, I do really highly recommend you make Templar Energy. It's just a good skill to have. When you start feeling safe, you can start to move out, right? Basically, your measure for safety should be, okay, do I have enough High Templar? Do I have anti-air? Kind of just check off the boxes. And we're gonna go ahead and attack, and we're gonna try to attack this base, assuming that they have a fourth base. You can try to take a fourth behind it if you want, but the most important thing here is we're gonna focus on our combat, okay? Because now that we have a death push going, right? I guess we can get some free kills. You can maybe macro like right as before you go into combat, right? And maybe just like, I don't know, try to take a fourth base. But again, the most important thing here is to set up, put your goons, and oh, I think they're going in for a giant counterattack, which is cute, which means they don't have much at home. So we're gonna go in and attack here. And again, this is a good way to just kind of punish like Zergs who play too fancy, you know? Too fancy means like if they try so hard to counterattack all the time, just punch them in the face. And if you lose, you lose. So in that game, they tried to go in for a really fancy like Hydra all-in, which in theory was a good idea, but they didn't check to see that I had a Dark Archon. And so it was kind of a dicey situation. I would admit that took some mechanics to safely hold that, but you know, that's PvZ, right? If you're not ready and if you don't micro well, then you're just gonna get slashed by hydras. And unfortunately, there's not much I can say other than to just, you know, get good. But I would say in that situation, I was in a pretty bad spot because my initial zealots died for nothing. Hopefully in other spots it wouldn't be that bad. Okay, so we got another PvP. Let's try to play one gate robo again. And again, this is the build that we've selected for this, you know, relatively family-friendly stream. Hopefully. And if you guys didn't tune in yesterday, this build is not particularly the easiest build. I wouldn't say it's very difficult, but it helps bring structure to the matchup, and I think that's the most important thing. Is this Fighting Spirit? I think it's Fighting Spirit. Whoops, my pylon placement's really not that good, so. I thought this was Polypoid. It's Fighting Spirit, right? Oh, it is Fighting Spirit. Thanks, man. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I got caught off guard because of the confusion on the map, but you're supposed to scout on a 4-player map after your gateway, which is 10. Then we go ahead and make our gas. Slightly late. My timings are a little bit griefy today, but that's okay. We make mistakes. We make mistakes when we're at B rank. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and make a cyber core. Looks like he's over there. Most likely, if he's not at bottom right with that probe coming over there, I would be concerned about a double 9 gate in the center, but let's see. If your first pylon is all the way over there, I would recommend making the second pylon right at 16 closer to your ramp. Looks like he is. It's 2 gateways. This is the, I call it the foreigner special build, because no pro gamer ever plays for 2 gateways like this. And the way that we're going to handle this is with our micro, right? And because it's cross spawns, this is actually really, really weak. And the most important thing that we're looking for is when is he gonna get his gas, right? Because a fast gas follow-up is a 21 gas, and it doesn't look like he's actually getting it. So one good way is to just send your probe out and shift click it back home or back to this mineral, and it's gonna glide through. Looks like he's gonna make a nexus, so now we know exactly what he's up to, and that's okay. And we're actually gonna play this very just calm, okay? Very calm. We're just gonna move on with our normal build, which is 26 Robo. Let's see if he actually opts to send those zealots forward. It doesn't seem like it. Looks like he is. And we're gonna micro one by one. Because we have such a big runway, you know, we get to have so many free hits. The most important thing is obviously to like not take damage, right? And it's okay if they kind of do that micro there. Now we have 2, we can block the ramp, and we can kind of just take the fight on the ramp here, right? And because goons outrun zealots, we can just go ahead and chase them down. And now we just got a lot of free damage, right? He might attack. Let's chase it down. Again, we're just looking for free damage. And because he expanded, we're gonna try to go all in, right? We're gonna make a shuttle with our Robo. And remember just the general logic around these builds, right? The general logic around these builds is if our opponent is going for 2 gate into expansion what that effectively means is they can't have tech, right? How could they possibly beat dragoons with slow zealots? You can't, right? And if you cannot, what does that mean? They have to have cannons. If they make cannons, they can't tech. If they can't tech, then they have nothing to fight against my long-ranged reavers, right? So basically, that's kind of the logic here. Now, the problem on this this map specifically, this is very, very specific to Fighting Spirit, is that there's something called these dead zones here that actually make the reavers not function correctly. So if you're new to StarCraft, you're gonna find that these dead zones are ridiculous, it's stupid, and you're absolutely correct, but unfortunately, that's the game that we play. So let's see if we could avoid these dead zones. Okay, so this is, you know, common sometimes where they try to sneak some zealots by. And you just, you know, calmly deal with it. Don't panic. Okay, now that we've dealt with it, now we know they have even less units, right? Usually what I like to do is I like to set up by making kind of like an arc with the dragoons, right? You can also go ahead and like prepare to take a nexus, because this is not really even all in, okay? Focus on your attack here. You just want to really focus on your micro. And we're just gonna set up our goons, spread them out, and try to fire these one by one. See, there's like these dead zones. Fortunately, that's unfortunate. We're getting hit by these dead zones. But that's okay. Let's just gonna go in because honestly, who cares? And we're just focusing on the fight here, right? Like, try target fire every time you can. Okay, we lost that. Now we're gonna come back home. And now we're kind of macroing, right? We're just focusing on micro. We have more goons. Shredder wearing in. Target fire. Target fire. Target fire. Target fire. Target fire. Target fire. Run away. Gather. And so notice that even despite all that, I'm not really behind, right? Like, I didn't really have to focus much of anything other than just combat. Granted, I am microing decently well, but notice how like my general prioritization is all on the combat, and that's because in PvP you can really get a lot done just by fighting really well. Now we're also gonna have a couple of reavers to supplement our army. Drop them here. Again, a move, and let's just go and target fire, right? Target fire with our, you know, make sure that we don't lose that. Kind of do a little bit of this tricky micro here. Okay, we lose one. That's okay. Try to go in again. Hopefully we can. Move away. And if you ever find yourself, you know, like, oh, I lost that. Well, that's okay. Just come back home and try again, you know? Reload your army and then try again, right? Now, it is important to try and get some detection here, right? Just because you just want to make sure that, you know, like, you don't just get destroyed by a random Dark Templar or anything. And again, have a nice spread. You want to kind of go sequentially from like 2 gateways to 4 gateways to eventually 6 gateways. And the goal is, okay, well, we feel like we did a decent amount of damage. Maybe we can go attack again with the 2 reaver push, right? Because we have the tech advantage. So why not, right? And if that doesn't work, then we'll move on to like the next phase of the game, which is effectively just, you know, moving on to Citadel and Forge. So let's actually just send out a probe. And sending out a probe is actually really good practice because you get free scouting information, right? And you know, if you have a handful of dragoons, you have a nice little army here, it's probably a good idea to start. Consider attacking. Again, we have the tech advantage, right? And just watch your army spread out. And we're gonna focus on our attack again. Okay, I'm gonna move up here, try to see if he has anything. And be careful of your army. Okay, we know that they're there. And you can macro while you're not in combat. But once you get to the point of like around the combat stage, spread your goons. And again, we're gonna focus the bulk of our attention on these 2 reavers, right? And you don't want them to be too far away from your goons, right? You can kind of poke in and see, okay, like one shot there. Can we get a free shot here? Okay, run away, run away, run away. Drop them off again. Look how much damage that they took just by them doing that, right? It's like they just have like a stray thing. So even if they got the reaver, notice I'm still doing a decent amount of damage, right? Try to get the money shots. Always kind of target fire behind. Gonna get one more shot. Nice. Let's see if I can just go in and bust. If you think about it, every reaver shot is kind of like a storm, right? Looks like we can actually just kind of, you know, get in here and really just end the game. Moving shot. It's important when you moving shot with goons, you're very calm and collected, right? Calm and collected. And if you ever want to move on to the next stage of the game, what you want to do is make Citadel, Forge, and that's kind of how it works, right? So PvP is always about goon, reaver, trading, and then once you've passed a certain point in the game where that's no longer very important, then you can move on to making a Citadel and Forge at the same time, move on to like 6 to 8 gateways, and you kind of play on to the next phase where you have speed zealots. I prefer to play with like Archons just because they're easier at the lower levels, but you can certainly play with Storm as well. The moving shot, yeah, I mean, it's really just, you just move forward and then you A-move. Or moving forward and then just, you know, target firing. I don't use patrol. I don't do anything fancy. It's literally right click and then attack, or right click again. The most important part of the moving shot though is don't over click. That's my biggest advice for microing dragoons or anything like it, right? Don't spam like click, because then your dragoons are gonna get stuck. The best way to micro goons, like against zealots or against goons or anything else, is try to be as calm and collected as possible. And I know that's hard to say without practice, but as you're practicing, just press move once and attack once every single time. Like literally it should cost 2 actions, right? Don't overclick, don't overclick anything. No, you don't use patrol. I mean, you can, but you don't use patrol. You can use hold position when you're on the defensive, but hold position is a spray shot, okay? Spray shot is usually not, it's good if you're like on the defensive. But goons are best served when they are target firing. Yeah, I lost some games. Peace out, Bagel Fry. Is there a StarCraft school that these pros attend when they go pro? Nope. Well, I guess there's the Korean University League, but it's not really like a school. The school is all through streams, you know? I think if you live in Korea, the accessibility to all these details is a lot easier because the pros all stream every single day. So unfortunately in America, there's not, or I mean in the foreigner land, there isn't that many resources. All right, we got PVZ against a random player. And does anyone remember my lesson for random? I said it right in the beginning and yesterday today. I learned all this by playing. No, I study VODs as well. But I did play a lot as well. Played a lot, and I also studied professional VODs and such. Dude, unadorned box. Look at him. This guy gets it. The number one tip with dealing with random is to not get frustrated that you're playing random. Okay? Because 2/3 of the time you're playing their off race, right? Nobody plays all races equally well. Unless they're like, unless you're me, you know, of course me, but you know, there's not that many JYs in the world, so you don't have to worry about that. PVZ! And he's going 9 pull speed. Oh, nope, he just canceled it. Just 9 pull. Just kind of piss them off here and there. We're just gonna go gas anyways. Actually, for this, we messed up our build a little bit, but that's okay. Against 9 pull, you want to get the zealot first. So we're going to amend our build, and this is kind of a good build to kind of keep in your back pocket. It can be used in many different situations. Where you make the zealot, then you make a pylon, and then you start mining your gas. That way you have constant zealot production, okay? And that's going to be very important. And again, one little trick. Send your probe to the corner and shift click back to the mineral line so that we can see what they're doing in about a minute. So if we're playing against 9 pool, there's going to be 6 lings on the way. And we're slowly going to make cybernetics core. This kind of ramp is a little bit fat, so unfortunately we're gonna have to use a probe as well. I think you can block with 2 zealots, but just to be safe, I'll just block like that. Keep making workers. Make sure we don't get supply blocked. And we're just gonna move on with our build, which is to go Stargate. And the Stargate really effectively allows us to scout what your opponent's doing, and it also enables us to go DT. And when we go DT, we can also very safely expand. So that's kind of the game plan. Once you have your 3rd zealot out, block the ramp. We don't know what we're up against yet, right? Keep making probes. Let's see what this, you know. Looks like he's actually just massing more lings. This might be something kind of crazy like a drone drill. If you see that, honestly... Oh! What the hell? Okay, I didn't expect that. When that happens, just micro like a god and you should be fine. When in doubt, you just okay, it looks like he's going for like a crazy all-in here. Again, when in doubt, you just micro like a god. I don't know how he even got in there, man. Like, honestly. He was not supposed to get in there. Anyways, you know, you could... usually making kind of like a forge and Templar archives kind of synergizes quite well. I don't know where his other overlords are, honestly. He probably has another overlord somewhere. There's one. He probably has one like out on the map. Okay, so I didn't realize those lings could get there, but let's be honest, he didn't realize either. He probably had a messed up rally point. Anyways, I had to micro like a god to survive that, but it goes to show that if you practice your micro, you can recover from situations as such. So, good motivation for you guys to not lose your cool when things go wrong. It was fishy when he sent his overlord to my mineral line. Usually that does indicate kind of like a drone drill kind of all in. Sometimes that happens. Not common on 4-player maps just because you sometimes will not get an overlord scout to do that in the first place, but it's fine. Alright. Hopefully we won't have to be reliant on our superior micro to win this one. We'll try to just play Normally. We've got a Terran player, finally. We're gonna play a very macro-oriented build. Very safe and macro-oriented build. Okay. So PvP, we're focusing a lot on attacking and allocating our attention towards those reavers and the goon control. In PvT, we're actually going to focus our attention on macroing really well. Okay. And if you don't, I'll just repeat the reasoning. The reason for that is at the lower levels, PROTOSS units are favored in battle because Terran units require finesse and PROTOSS units require less finesse, at least the basic units. So therefore, if you're playing with basic units, you can take advantage of that by reallocating your attention towards macro, while your opponent has to focus on micro a little bit more. So that's why we're playing it a little bit differently. But if it were PvP, it's different because you have the same units and the matchup's different. Therefore, the emphasis should be on your micro and your control, not your macro, right? Important thing to keep in mind, and that's a very, very, very important concept in Brood War, where you have to make decisions on what's the most important things at every point in the game. And it's always different on every matchup and every situation, and that's the game of StarCraft. How do I most efficiently allocate my attention so that I can get the most value out of every action that I take? So I'm gonna play this build. It's gonna be 23 Nexus. Gonna be very, very vanilla, very, very safe. I don't even probe scout. This build dies to nothing. It's generally good versus most things, and it only starts becoming problematic once you start reaching the higher levels, when opponents start mixing in things like Rax Expand and other kinds of things. So this build is highly recommended for any and all new players. If you want it to be even safer, you can just probe scout, but I would say for the most part it's okay. It's okay. Alright, so he scouted me first. Usually the first scout comes at about 230, 225, 230. This means that he must be scouting me as second scout, right? So I'm gonna make a guess. Let's see if my guess is right. Let's see if he is over there. Oh my god. Making the... It's funny. I guess they do that at this level. Yeah, I mean, if that happens, you just kill it, I guess. We're gonna go ahead and scout. And so we're gonna use the second goon to block the ramp. And when we have the money, we're gonna go ahead and make a robotics facility. And then right after the robotics facility, we're gonna make a goon. And all throughout this time, we're making non-stop workers because we're going for a macro-oriented build. Wow, looks like I'm wrong on my scout timings. So that means my scout's gonna be really late, unfortunately. When you have the money, around 29, 28, I think, a little late. Go ahead and make a second gateway. I like to keep my gateways on 5 and 6 hotkeys, and my robo on 4, and then my goons on 1, 2, 3. But you can do whatever is most comfortable for you. Looks like I have last scout. That's going to be very painful. I don't even know if he's going for a Rax Expand or anything, rather. Once your robo's done, you get the goon, the observatory ASAP. And generally speaking, you want to prioritize this kind of wall here. We just want to make sure that our opponent actually has... Oh. Okay, well, we've confirmed that they have a natural, and there's mines, and there's an eBay, so we should be okay. We should have 4 dragoons, but we don't. We saw mines, right, so we know that it's not going to be some sort of crazy kind of tech. Usually at around 6 goons, you should go ahead and try to take your 3rd base, but because our opponent's going for mines and such, we're gonna make our 7th and our 8th goons first, and then slowly pick these off. And then we're gonna send our probe over here. So you can take it at 6 goons, but 8 goons is okay as well. And then we're also gonna go and scout. And I'm gonna leave a couple of goons in my main base, because there could be a dropship coming at around 6:30. Or that. Fortunate. That's okay. Just remember that they had to, you know, invest all their speed vultures in that. That is bad for us, unfortunately. But, you know, we're gonna deal with it. Don't panic. The follow-up is gonna be 4 gateways. Try to see if we can get into the main base. See what they're up to. Looks like they're only on 1 factory so far. Is there an armory? Looks like there's a starport on the way, so there probably is an armory somewhere, I'm gonna guess. There it is. So it looks like this person is gonna go for a very standard kind of a macro kind of play. And my response to this is I'm gonna take a 3rd base, 4th base immediately. In addition, I'm also going to go ahead and start my Citadel, because I can synergize my Citadel with my 2nd gas. Because they only have 3 factories and they've only been on 1 factory the entire time, I'm not really worried about much of anything right now. They already used all their tech on, you know, on those vultures over there. And really my goal is to just expand, get my units out, you know, because again, they only have 1 factory, or maybe the third one's done by now, but they have to make tanks after, what am I trying to say here? They have to make tanks after their initial vultures, right? So if they make tanks, how could they possibly have vultures, right? So once the Citadel's done, let's go ahead and continue with our tech. You make Stargate and then a Templar Archives. That's in the middle of misplaced. I have OCD, so I'm going to cancel it. I'm also going to synergize this well with a Forge. You're going to go ahead with making a pylon wall at your different bases. You know, make some more observers. You know, basically kind of just dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's. And basically, you want to keep making workers until around 100 supply, okay? So we're just about there. We'll send 4 over, we'll send 4 over here. Try to make some upgrades. Let's make that Arbiter Tribunal, right? And we know this is going to be a very, very, very kind of standard macro game. Another good thing to check is to see if there's a control tower. If there is, and you can actually see it, it's good to make a cannon at each base, roughly at around 930. And that's just going to be for good measure. It's just always good to just have that. And around at this time, 930, after you hit 100 supply, you're going to have all your probes out. And when you have all your probes out, that's a good time to start your gateway explosion. So you should make at least 8 gateways. I like to make 10 on 4 gateways. I also love making observer speed at this time. Leg upgrades, arbiters, and now I have a nice kind of spread of goons and observers. So usually you want to have at least 20 goons or something. And now you can start pumping a bunch of stuff. Because once you have around 65 workers, which is what I have about now, effectively what happens is that your production capabilities become so fast, and watch how fast I'm gonna max out from 125 to, you know, 180-ish, okay? Just make sure you're producing from every gateway. You know, try to like have a nice rhythm where, you know, you're not like skipping any. I like to make some room to start expanding for my 5th base by clearing mines, right? I like to get stasis on my Arbiter Tribunal, continue macroing, and again, my whole attention is allocated towards macroing right now, right? And once you have around 180 supply, honestly, sometimes that's a good time to even just go for a bust, right? You can kind of assess the situation. Depends on the strength of your opponents, right? And notice they don't really have that many vultures over there. So we're gonna go ahead and shove, right? And the way that we want to do this is we want to spread out your dragoons, spread out your, you know, zealots a little bit, and just go 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. And if you can, try to move your dragoons forward like this, right? And try to target fire some of these tanks, if you can, right? Target fire, target fire, target fire, right? Target fire, target fire, target fire, target fire, target fire, target fire, right? And, you know, we didn't quite do it, but that was an okay trade, right? We got all of their tanks, and I would say that is a PROTOSS victory. But the most important part from this point on is if you lose your dragoons, every gateway should be producing dragoons. You should always have, always, 100% of the time have 20 goons in play. So everything should be going towards goon production right now, okay? And it's okay that we lost our army. Why? Because PROTOSS is looking for trades. Terran army scales much better than the PROTOSS army, right? So every time I can kill their tanks, that is a good thing. Now we gotta see if they're actually trying to move out or if they're just trying to get some, you know, control there. Map control, maybe taking his 4th base. Let's just send some probes out. Looks like we're not actually facing, we're not actually facing a push out, which would be crazy from your opponents, right? I think it'll be a good idea to start upgrading recall. It's a good idea to start getting another forge. And we're kind of entering into like this next phase of the game. And because we can confidently say that they're getting a 4th base, they're not really looking to attack anytime soon, right? At least looks like it, so we can maybe counter with a base of our own. I like making more observers. Just make sure we're just, you know, covered everywhere. And we continue to make more units. We should also continue to make more arbiters. And honestly, my recommendation is when you're maxed out, sometimes you can just try to attack, right? Why not? And this time, I'm gonna have a stasis in my arsenal and spread out everything. Maybe try to get a couple of good stasis going here, like boom, 1, right? And let's just try to attack, right? Go 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. Try to see what we can get done. And sometimes, if you don't want to watch the fight in these big kinds of fights, you can just go back home. Goon, 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 zealot. And maybe try to see how it's going, right? And again, if you can get inside and get some tanks, right? The tanks are the heavy hitters back there. And again, we lost our army. That's not good. But honestly, sometimes it's okay, right? Sometimes it's okay. It's not good for us, but it's also not the end of the world. Because we're trading for tanks. As long as you trade for tanks, that's okay. Because tanks are really hard for them to replenish. Why? Because they only have a few machine shops, whereas for us to replenish our dragoon supply, they can come back very, very easily and quickly, right? They produce from every single gateway that we have, right? And generally speaking, it's just easier to, you know, come back from. Now that we have an arbiter here, it's a good practice to maybe even consider like splitting up your arbiters as we, you know, go for, you know, a recall type of play, right? Usually if you want to go for a recall, a good idea is to just bank up all your zealots. Don't bring your dragoons, because zealots are very expendable. And just try to go right on their mineral line and bomb it. Like, boom. Bomb it, right? And this is really frustrating for your opponents to deal with, okay? If you have another arbiter, you can, you know, consider doing the same exact thing over on the other base. Notice how I'm not even looking at my zealots, because there's not much to really micro. Another good kind of macro thing to keep in mind is just, you know, make more gateways at your other bases. This is mainly because, you know, what we want to try to do is give ourselves insurance. This gives us insurance, right? Because it allows us to reproduce our army from another base if they try to kill one. And again, we're gonna go for another recall. Zealots just right on top of the... Oh, looks like we got EMP'd. Good on him. It's okay. We can send another arbiter over there. And right around this time, we can start getting some gas. Looks like he's actually trying to move out. And this might be very dangerous. And we're just gonna A move and just pray that, you know, this works. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Probably not. And macro. Macro. Nope, doesn't work. And we're probably dead. That's okay. Because, you know, this guy played well. You gotta give props. It's not over yet. We can try to go for that recall up there, right? And the reason why it's not over yet is because we still have all these gateways, right? So let's just try to see if we can get this recall going. And just macro. Just because you lost the fight doesn't mean you have to keep losing the fight, right? So we actually got some decent damage done, right? And, you know, we're losing that base over there, which isn't great, but, you know, again, I don't think it's really the end of the world. Try to stay calm. Try to basically re-max your army and see what we can get done, right? And basically what we're trying to do here is we're trying to catch Terrans off guard, okay? That's basically what I'm looking for. I'm looking for moments where I could A, move them and catch them off guard, okay? That's basically my objective. I'm gonna remake a few probes because we lost a base, right? like he has some units there. Make sure we don't lose that. And maybe we can go ahead and attack, see if we can get this done. Oh, looks like he might just have too much. Let's see if we can maybe bring our reinforcements over. Again, try your best to stay back as much as you can. I know it feels like very dire right now, but just try to stay as calm as you can. I'm serious. Just try it. Just try it. We have units coming from behind. Maybe we can, you know, perhaps claw our way back in. Maybe we can't. But, you know, don't give up. Maybe try to find as much value. It's unlikely that we can actually come back from this kind of game, but again, just don't give up. Don't give up. You know, don't give up. And it's good. It's good to just practice this, even if you're losing. It's really good to just practice these kinds of situations in games. Okay. Notice how I'm using Dark Templars. Not going to be able to do this because he has a little bit too much. And we lose. And that's okay, right? And I think like the most important part to realize in these kinds of games is try to continue being patient, right? Even if you're losing your army, right? Like just try to not have this tendency to just send in your units because whatever, right? You know what I mean? Like don't just send in your units just because. Always try to fight on, try to get a big army going, and try to catch Terran with their pants down, so to speak. But overall, he played really well. I would say I lost the game because, you know, I made a couple of attacks that I would say did reasonably well. Right? But at the same time, you know, sometimes in PvT, you just have to attack, right? And sometimes it's not wrong to just kind of pressure test what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. Usually, I wouldn't have attacked like if that were, you know, like a more serious game. But I'm basically just saying sometimes just try it. Just like get into a good arc, try to attack, get value, remax, and then try again, right? It's okay to lose. It's okay to pressure test these kinds of things. Just so that you kind of have some level of like heuristic in terms of like what works and what doesn't work. Just make sure you're like just about maxed out though. And make sure you have a good arc. Make sure you do 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A in good situations. And then slowly over time, you'll start to see, oh, I could bust that. Oh, I can't bust that, right? And you kind of build your intuition that way, right? And a lot of times in PvT, that's just basically how PvT works. You don't always know when you're going to win the fight just because of the way the cards fall with mines, tanks, and all those kinds of things. There's ways you can improve fighting, but at the same time, for the most part, sometimes you just don't know. And sometimes you just have to go and try. And sometimes you just lose, and that's okay, right? as long as you just had a game plan, you tried it, and you know, just live with the results. I would say that Terran player like definitely played pretty well. I'd say, I don't know, is this Fighting Spirit or Polyploid? This looks like Fighting Spirit, right? I think it is Fighting Spirit. Yeah, it is. We got a PvP. What does pants down mean? Yeah, what it means is in late game situations, oftentimes Terrans are also scatterbrained, like you. And kind of how I've been saying this whole time, where StarCraft's a game of attention. Oftentimes, when players don't know what they're doing, they try to do too much at once. And that's most prevalent with Terran, just because there's so much to do, right? You gotta expand, you gotta make turrets, you gotta make vessels, you gotta siege mines, set up mines, siege your tanks. And what happens is, oftentimes in hectic games, you might catch their army unsieged, you might catch their army split up, right? And really the Terran army is most strong when they're in a death ball situation, right? And usually in those cases, they have to be paying attention to their army, right? And if they're paying attention to their army, then they're probably not paying attention to other things as much. So that's why don't lose hope when you lose those kinds of games. Even though I still lost that game, that's okay. However, I was still looking for opportunities to come back. And you don't come back by just donking your units away. Try to stay back as much as you can until you find an opportunity, or you can induce an error from your opponent. Because there's a zealot over there already, what that probably means is we're up against a 10-12 gate, 2 gate. Because the zealot should not already be there if he went for the same build that I went for, right? And it's most likely, yep, we're going to see this. Again, this is the most common build that I tend to see at the lower rings. This is what I call the Foreigner Special. I think it's not a very good build. Oh, dude, I only have 2 on gas. Holy moly. Okay, we're gonna have to play this a little bit, you know, improvise a little bit. Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. We're playing against a Nexus opener. And they're going to send their zealots, and we're going to send their goon out. And the reason we're sending their goon out is so we can get as much damage as we can for the zealots, one by one. And this is free damage. Click, attack, attack. Notice I'm not making anything too complicated, right? If you can't move back without, you know, getting hits, then just attack again. Oh, that happens sometimes. Try to bait them into the middle, and then drill. Okay, see that? Bait them into the middle and then drill. Don't try too hard to like drill at the edge of your base, so to speak, right? So we're gonna play this basically using our tech advantage. This is the same thing we fought earlier. One thing we have to be careful of is stray zealots out there on the map. And what we're gonna do is basically try to go for a reaver push, right? Because the only way they can guard this is if they have a forge. And if they have a forge, they have cannons. If they have cannons, they can't have tech, right? So that's why we're gonna prioritize making units on one base. And we're going to punish this by utilizing our superior tech and allocating our attention to micro. Okay? So what that means is we're going to make a shuttle right away. Usually what you want to do is you make the shuttle and then, oops. Oh, how we survived that? It's crazy. Generally speaking, you want to make the shuttle first, and then the robo facility comes at around halfway your shuttle, so that the reaver can finish right as your shuttle finishes. It was late because that probe kind of disrupted me there. It's okay. So what we're gonna get ready to do is basically just try to bust them with the reaver push. Right? And again, it's always good to kind of have your units in an arc in case they start to come out, right? We can make a probe down here just to get ready for the eventual Nexus, because this is really not all in. You know, as much as it seems like it's all in, the reality is it's not really all in because of the damage we expect to do. We don't actually have to always kill our opponent, although that does mean we have to at least get some damage done, right? So they have their goons out. We're gonna move back because he's massing goons. Okay, we're gonna try to do this. Focus. Notice how I'm just focusing all my attention on this. Try to get clusters. Again, we prioritize units. Looks like he might have too much. Can I get it? Unfortunately, I can't. We probably lose the game, but that was still worth it to try, right? Now, is the game over? Probably. Probably, but we're gonna keep trying, right? And the reason we're gonna keep trying is because, you know, reavers are strong, right? Reavers are strong. They really are. Unless we can survive this, that is. And again, you're just gonna keep trying to micro as excellently as we can. Even though we're in a terrible situation, but it's okay, we're gonna keep trying, right? And the way we're gonna keep trying is... well, I think we can't really win this. Unfortunately, we lose, and that's okay. The push was unfortunately too late. Basically, what you really want to do here is, like, you can still go for that kind of punish, but at the same time, you want to get your robo a little bit faster, right? And the problem with that is my robo was very late, and again, I'm not trying to play super hard here. I'm trying to kind of emulate okay, as we defend this, right? Notice that we had money to start making a robotics and other things, right? But again, we don't want to try too hard, and unfortunately, it's okay to lose, right? And that's the most important thing, right? As we're dealing with all this, we have so much, you know, extra money floating, so our robotics was late, right? You know, this is kind of where it kind of comes down to mechanics a little bit, right? Where as you get mechanically better, you could throw down your tech faster. And if your tech is faster, then you can abuse that advantage faster as well, right? And so that's kind of the general theory around all this, right? And because our robotics was so late, unfortunately, he was able to get away with just like a mass gateway type of push. And unfortunately, we were unable to punish him. His eco kicked in, our tech was too late, and unfortunately, we just was not able to do that. So, all right, GG. Nom Toss, you're a solid string player losing at B MMR. Doesn't disprove Smurf matters from the perspective of being mind strong or improving. Realize. Well, I'm not just to be honest with you, I'm not playing I'm not playing like I'm not playing at a very strong level. Like I'm not playing with my full mechanics right now because it's supposed to be a educational stream, you know. What I'm trying to do as I'm defending against the zealots, right? I'm trying to demonstrate how to focus your attention on the dragoon versus zealot micro, right? Now, if I were using my full mechanics, I would be multitasking, and by multitasking, I would be putting down my robo faster, right? Things like that, right? However, the important thing that I'm trying to demonstrate in these games is I'm not trying to win with superior multitasking. I'm trying to win or lecture on what is the most important things at the most important times, right? And at the time when you're microing against the zealots, you have to focus on microing your dragoons. You have to let go of your build and deal with the zealots first. And then as you get better and better and better, your multitasking will allow you to tech faster or, you know, do these other things at the same time, right? However, what I'm trying to say is that we lost here because our robotics was late, and that's kind of a mechanics thing, right? But it's okay because we had a reasonable strategy. We had a reasonable objective. We went for it. We failed. We studied why we lost, and that's StarCraft, right? And so what we don't want to do is kind of like be too results oriented or like, oh, because I won or because I lost, you know, there was a problem or something, right? And so you don't want to think about StarCraft from the perspective of win or loss. You don't want to think about StarCraft from the perspective of like, there's Smurfs on the ladder. You just want to focus on, did I prioritize the right things? Did I have a reasonable decision-making process? Did I learn from that process, right? And that's the only thing that I'm trying to teach here, right? And so, again, sometimes you do these things and sometimes you just lose, right? Now, if I were playing at full strength, would I have done something differently? Yeah, but I'm trying to kind of focus on a reaver, goon reaver kind of, you know, play here, right? Other things you could do is like drop a fast citadel. You can go for Dark Templar open, expand, double expand, but I don't want to do too many technical openers and technical responses just because I want to keep the lecture series very simple. I'm going to do the same thing every single game over and over and over, but we're just going to make minor adjustments to our play based off of what we see. So again, I'm also just trying to demonstrate like, hey, like even against that like Terran game that we played on Radeon that we lost, like honestly, if I were coaching somebody, I'd say, look, like you played that game really well, you know, and you know, the cards fell where they fell and then you lost. And like, there's nothing to be ashamed of when you made generally good decisions and, you know, things just didn't work out, because that's how StarCraft is. Because the games are, the units are janky, you know, things just really are not like, you know, super easy, things like that, right? And again, like that's kind of like the thesis of everything that I'm trying to teach. It's all just coming down to good decisions, good prioritization, learning from our mistakes, and getting better. Okay, so this is a PVZ, right? PVZ. We're gonna go for a Forge Fast Expand. Again, we're gonna go for a double pylon search. And then we're gonna go for basically a Citadel Speed Zealot opener, just because I feel like that this build is very strong at this race. Oops, my pylon. My probe went down a little bit too early, but that's okay. It should be coming down at 11, not 10. I'm talking too much. Okay, we found him. We can bring this guy back, see what they're up to. That's an 11 hatch. We can go down and try to block the hatchery if we can. Because we're up against this, you know, we could go for a cannon rush, but because I brought my probe back home already, I'm not going to. You can kind of mess with your opponent like this and just fake the cannon rush, right? This is reasonable, but again, I would say this is a little bit of like a technical kind of thing. But at least it's, you know, not too big of a deal. So let's see if they actually bring down anything. You don't want to keep it alive too much. There it is. So you can go ahead and cancel and then laugh at them. That is in our favor if they brought 3 drones and also attempted to make an extractor. We're going to make a nexus because they went hatch first. And we can also go for gateway and we can get a gas before we actually make our cannon. But you should be careful though. You should generally just kind of watch. What you want to do is make sure that your cannon starts before their Zergling hatches, okay? So just remember that. Does my cannon start before their Zergling hatch? If so, you're gonna be safe. Most of the time, just because, you know, sometimes it might be dicey on different kinds of maps, but I started my cannon, their Zerglings are still being made, therefore, we are not going to get bopped by Zerglings, right? I like to make a pylon at 16. And another little trick, if you don't have mechanics to like do your probes, I like to, you know, send it over to the corner and then shift click back into the mineral so I can orb walk back home. Sometimes it doesn't quite work, but other times it does. Works kind of beautifully. I'm gonna make a cybernetics core as soon as I can. And again, it's so important to be making workers non-stop here. Once we have the money, we're gonna go ahead and get a +1 ground weapons. It should be around 4 minutes. We're gonna try to prioritize pro production. We're gonna try to prioritize zealot production as well. And you're not always gonna be able to get it, that's okay. No second gas for this build because we're going to be going for a zealot push. Once your cybernetics core is done, then we'll go ahead and make a citadel. Continue to make more probes and zealots non-stop. And again, the zealots are important because we're going to try to bank up as many as we can. We can also go ahead and try to see if we can get a good scout off in their base. When you have money, we're going to try to get a second gateway. Looks like they're going for a hydra den. That's nice to see. And in this case, I would have gotten a gas to go Templar Archives, but now we're actually going to go for more zealot heavy units, and we're also going to put down 2 cannons. And the good thing about this is when you go for a speed zealot type of opener, this actually makes it slightly easier for you to defeat and for you to deal with hydras. Why? Because you have speed upgrades really fast, and you also don't really need to what am I trying to say here? You don't actually need to make so many cannons. And the reason for that is we have so many zealots in play. And the only thing you just want to be careful of is to make sure that your zealots are right out here in front. You don't want them to be back there because you don't want the hydras to come up and snipe your cannons immediately. Okay? Now as you make more and more zealots, right? Notice that they can kite, which is fine. But just make sure you're watching your zealots, right? Make sure they don't have an easy way to, you know, basically try to attack you with this. And the good thing about this kind of build is because you have so much macro going on, you can just keep making so many gateways. And it's really important to just make sure you're just watching all this happen. If he only has 4 hydras, you can go ahead and try to like surround it if he's not watching. Okay, maybe not. Or maybe he's also trying to attack. So again, just make sure he doesn't like dive on top without, you know, getting you know, hit like this. And now that he tried to dive on top of it, he's eating all of my zealot shots. And you know, this should be fairly straightforward to kind of just overwhelm at this point. That said, it's probably good practice to just like remake cannons just in case, right? Like, you never want to be too greedy against these kinds of things, but I bet that if I just make zealots nonstop off of 6 gateways, I'm pretty sure I can just overwhelm him. But a good kind of tip in general is when you make cannons defensively, when you're trying to not die, it's good to make those cannons behind, okay? Don't make them up front. When you make them up front, that's more if you want to protect your forge. But if they're kind of like cannons where you don't want to, you know, die, make sure you make them behind so that they're forced to, you know, run into your wall first. So now, again, most likely, this is probably just going to be over. You could, you know, I'm prioritizing making, you know, units because right now I'm trying to overwhelm my opponent, but other times you might be prioritizing micro. So right now let's try to do micro. Well, it looks like he's leaving, but you can kind of do like a moving shot. You know, you can kind of do like a moving shot, surround, you know, click, right? So you kind of have to ask yourself in different situations, is it more advantageous for me to prioritize my micro like this and moving shot, or should I be at home making units, right? Usually it's good to be focusing on your micro, but in this situation where you have 6 gateways and your opponent has 973, right? I prefer to focus on my macro and let my zealots just kind of do their job, so to speak, right? Because zealots work really, really well on their own, so to speak. So, again, the good thing about that build is that it makes you more durable against 973. It only starts getting bad when your opponent's muta control starts getting very strong. He won't. I don't see him. Oh, there he is. All right. All right. B Zerg. Let's try it again. Let's see if we could execute our build again. I should have tried to cannon rush my opponent last game. I kind of just had a mind blip there. But you should generally try to cannon rush your opponent if you go for this Forge Fast Expand, especially if you pylon search, just because pylon search is very costly from an economic standpoint. And cannon rushing, there's an art to cannon rushing, but it's also not that hard to learn. You know, you just make a couple of pylon walls and cannon rush. If anything, it's a lot harder for your Zerg player opponents to deal with it. Okay, so now we have pylon search. We're gonna make our forge at 11 again. And then with our 11th, we'll also scout with it. That is absolutely correct. When your units are better than your opponents in terms of auto attacking, then you should take advantage of that. That's absolutely true. However, it would not be a bad idea to prioritize micro in that situation as well. If you watch somebody like Bonnet, he's definitely prioritizing micro and then, you know, macroing when he can. You know, I think both is fine. In that specific situation, this looks like it's going to be an overpool. Oh, no. Oh. Strange, okay. That is... what the hell? An overpool, I guess? Strange. That looks like a very late overpool. I don't know what the hell that is, actually. Either way, I don't know what this is, but we're safe getting a Nexus first. And the reason being is, again, all we want to make sure is that our cannon starts before their lings hatch, right? Just ask yourself that question. And if so, that's fine. That looked like he made 6 lings. And if they make 6 lings, you should make 2 cannons. If they make 4 lings, yep, 4 lings, then you should make 1 cannon. It's a very strange build. It looks like he actually went for something like a 12 pull. Generally speaking, just be careful a little bit with, you know, any run bys. So maybe even just bring like 2 probes. You don't have to make a full wall, but just because that's my second cannon won't finish in time, sometimes it's just good practice to, you know, just be safe. Okay. Make a pylon. We're gonna make a gas. Go and send some probes over. It's probably a little bit too many probes, but it's okay. We'll just bring these ones back home. Again, I did my little trick over there where I shift click back into the mineral. I think I did that actually. I don't know if I actually did it. We're gonna make a cybernetics core immediately. Prioritize probes, zealots. And when you have the resources, we're gonna try to make +1 weapons. The reason why my SimCity, oh, looks like I got killed there. Sometimes it doesn't work. Again, the best way to do that is to just micro your probe and keep it alive. But again, I understand that could be a little bit hard for certain people. But I'm just showing a little quick trick that might work at the lower levels. So we're gonna keep making workers. Keep making workers. Keep making zealots. I forget if I said, but the reason why I put the gateway so far out there is so that I can protect my forge with cannons. It's a bit of a tricky, it's a bit of a unique type of wall off. Then we're gonna go ahead and make second gateway. Because we already have 2 cannons, I wouldn't really be worried about any Hydra bust here, and our gateways out there. The reason being, because we're going for a fast citadel and speed lot opener, we're not going to be concerned about Hydra busts often, right? So we're going to go ahead and get leg upgrades immediately. When we have the gas, we'll make Templar Archives, and after we make Templar Archives, we're gonna throw down 2 more gateways. And a good time to attack is when your Citadel is almost done. Okay, almost done. So again, we're still making workers non-stop. If you make workers non-stop till about 7 minutes, you should have about 41 plus probes, and that gives you 2 base saturation. So again, just good hygiene, right? And again, we're prioritizing units and workers, and once you just have the money, then you slowly just start adding the gateways that you need. Oh, actually, sorry, we should be making a cannon first, because we don't have anti-air. We should also make a cannon over here, just in case. Oh. And I'm going to send my zealots out now. And then behind this, I'm going to make 2 High Templars. Okay. And I'm also going to make more gateways. See what we can get done. Actually make second cannon. Can kind of stagger it a little bit. And again, we're just going to try to see if we can get any damage. Looks like he has hydras. Interesting. So we're actually going to run back because... and cancel those cannons because... we're not up against any sort of... I don't actually know what this is. I don't know if he's actually attacking. Maybe he is. Just kind of, you know, dance back and forth. If they move forward, punish them with your spikes. And this is way too much damage. And again, this is the same situation. You can either prioritize micro, boom, boom, boom. I think it's really important to get your gateways, because again, we can afford 8 gateways. Afford 8 gateways. Once you have 41 probes. And again, that's the nice thing of having speed zealots, because you could kind of just let your zealots do their thing, right? Oh, look at that. That's very strange. He might have like some strange maybe he has like another, like a hatchery over there or something. But I believe we should be okay. Just because... can't imagine. Yeah, okay, this guy's... I guess this happens at this rank. I mean, I've never really seen this very much, but I guess this happens. I mean... That's insane, but... If this is the case, then, I mean, we just build up, right? I would still try to make a Dark Archon just for good measure. You don't want to be in a situation where, you know... like, you just flat out lose to mutas. Let's see if we can actually counterattack with these zealots over here. Looks like we can. He's probably gonna panic. run around. And honestly, if you can't do anything with your zealots, it's always good to just like send them to a corner. And then start to micro. Let's see if we can actually just, you know, punish this base over here. Unfortunately, I don't have like a lot of tips to give to like play against Clown Town like this, but I would certainly consider this kind of game a Clown Town kind of game. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of tips, honestly. I don't even know what he's doing and why. You just make units and macro at home. Notice like it's good to just have your gateways just kind of like nicely positioned so that you can macro them cleanly. But I mean, this kind of game was a little bit funny. They basically went for like a 973 with a sneaky hatchery over there. But as we just saw, you know, because we went for zealots, you know, we were a lot more durable against this kind of all-in because we just had so many more units. If they have that many hydras, they must have gone for some sort of 973 Clown Town build, or just 973. But let me kind of show the most important thing, the key takeaway about this kind of game, regardless of Clown Town over there. Here's the most important thing, okay? And this is kind of just to help understand the dynamic between 973 hydras versus zealot-cannon wall, okay? Alright, so we recognize that they're going for hydras, which is a very strange opener. So we started making cannons, right? What we have to do, here's what we're trying to do, okay? We're trying to make cannons, right? Now, I'm not making them as urgently as I should be. That's okay. But what we want to do is these zealots need to come home, okay? But that zealot, it should not come all the way back into your base. Why? Because you want to make sure these zealots are in position to block the hydras from diving on your cannons, okay? So where can they dive from the cannons, right? The most obvious spot is like from down here. They crawl right there, and then they can snipe these two, or they can get into like this area, and then they can snipe these two cannons, right? Because of my gateway positioning, this actually makes things really difficult for the hydras to effectively dive, except down here, right? So that's why they have to kill the gateway first. But if they kill the gateway first, then the PROTOSS has more time for their cannons to warp in and for reinforcements to come, okay? So you basically use this as like a sacrificial lamb, so to speak, right? But your objective is to, again, here, you're basically prioritizing micro and cannons here, okay? Micro and cannons. The reason for that is, again, your zealots don't want to be too far out so that they take free hits from hydras, but they don't want to be too far in so that they can dive on top of you, right? So basically you're waiting to see this. This is your algorithm. If the hydras dive in, then you move your zealots forward and then you punish them. You basically make them eat all of your knives, right? If they stay outside, your zealots stay inside. Okay, only if and only if when they start to dive, you move your zealots out, right? That's why this is really important to be careful to not multitask too much. Now, if you can multitask, go for it, but the vast majority of your attention should be here because you're waiting to see if the Zerg is going to dive or not, right? If you remember actually watching Snow versus Sulky in the last ASL, Snow actually did this very poorly. Every time Sulky dove, Snow's reaction time was just a fraction of a second too late, and therefore he died. I think at least 2, maybe even 3 of those games, right? And so even pro gamers get this part wrong, and that's why Sulky also just kind of like utilizes this because they know that PROTOSS is back at home. They're trying to, you know, macro, do other things, and in that split second you're not watching, Zerg dives on top, right? And when they dive on top, see, you wait. Okay, right when they dive on top, you want to try to get a spread. Here, I don't have a spread because my own zealot blocked me out. But imagine if my zealots stopped them right here and I got 3 zealots, you know, attacking their hydras. That would have been perfect, right? However, this was not great either because they cannot really range this down very easily, right? So that attempt was actually not a great attempt. So even though my zealot spread wasn't great, I blocked them from being able to dive on top of that cannon. So you see how I'm continuing to dance? Again, I try not to give free shots. You keep waiting. And if they dive, there they go. Then you start to attack, right? Now they retreat. If they retreat, then you also retreat because you don't want to take extra damage. And you keep doing the same thing, right? You keep waiting, waiting, waiting. If they dive, then you attack. Again, I'm slightly late as well. You see how I'm constantly using the zealots are meat shields. Now he's diving, but at this point, I got him, right? Because he dove, I countered him perfectly, and he paid the price. Because zealots absolutely outscale hydras in terms of DPS, right? So the most important thing you should take away from this kind of game is the dynamic between the zealots and the hydras and how that works and how you should be prioritizing the right amount of attention to not die in this kind of situation, right? And this kind of micro and defense is so important for PROTOSS players, right? Because it's not just about having a number of units, it's about making sure that your zealots are not in out of position, right? Let me tell you why. If these zealots are all the way over here, you know what a really good Zerg would do? They would wall you in your own base, okay? They would bring their hydras there, right? And then hold position them so that if your zealots try to run out, they can't get out of their own base, okay? So again, you don't want to be in a situation where your own zealots can't even get out to do their DPS. You want to make sure they're fluid enough and that there's enough space so that they could attack the hydras as much as possible. So hopefully you guys took away from that game how to defend against you know, hydras if you have zealots. And that's also why zealots are super important, because the zealots act as body you know, like body shields, and they also deal an insane amount of DPS if your opponents overextend. Left Snow, thank you for the raid. Alright, let's see what the next game is. Another PvZ. What if I'm old and my hands don't move that fast? That's okay. You know, like I said, this game is about prioritization. Right? The zealots, again, the zealots, you just need to move them back and forth, okay? You really think about it, that zealot control there is really not that difficult to do. The more difficult thing to do is macroing while you're doing that, or, you know, even making cannons or teching to storm. That's the real challenge, right? And that's why PvZ, unfortunately, is just really, really hard. And unfortunately, I have no solution for you other than to start over and play Terran instead. Look at that. You just win. You just win, baby. Look at that. You like that, Nesh Dev? Indeed, too easy. Alright, PvT again. Oh, or not. Why can't you guys get to S rank when you have this many levers? It's actually criminal. It's criminal if you're stuck in B rank. It's not even fair, dude. I'm doing nothing. Oh, 2025 new game. You guys think this guy plays Battle Aces? Stuck in F rank? You should be locked up. Not possible, man. I'm surprised at how many random players there are, you know? Yeah, it is based off of wins and loss. But yeah, it's obviously dependent on, you know. Is this a I like this guy. Alright, we're up against random. Why do I feel like this is like a sniper? You guys think this is a sniper? I feel like this is definitely a sniper, dude. Who is this guy, man? Two gateways. There it is again. You bet money on Sterling? Really? You think Sterling would do this to me? Sterling, my boy, dude! You wouldn't do this to me, man. Alright, this is a 21. So there's going to be, you know. Dragoons, right? In this kind of situation, because they're going for the gas, they can get at most 3 zealots unless they try to play very, very tricky, okay? They should not be sending their zealots kind of staggered like that just because I can out DPS them. So again, what we want to do is focus on our micro. Again, I'm just gonna purely attack. Purely attack, purely attack, purely attack, purely attack. And I like to use the zealot over here to kind of, you know, try not to lose the zealot though, okay? And again, we're just gonna micro. Oh, I lost the zealot, unfortunately. Look at that, they're actually making a lot of zealots. Again, we're just focusing on micro. You can target fire, that's great. If not, that's okay. Looks like he actually is making a lot more zealots than I expected him to. Now we can go ahead. Okay. As long as you micro sufficiently, then you will induce lots of salt, right? Usually when they go for that gas, they don't usually make any more zealots. But that person was very clearly really bad, because when you go for two gateways, you never want to send your zealots staggered like that, okay? You want to send them all three together. But unfortunately, you know, fortunately, you know, that just happens, right? All right. Gotta respect the hustle. We got another PvP. This is Minstrel, right? I'm gonna admit, I don't really know this map very well, but we'll try. We'll try. It's PvP, so the maps don't matter too much, except for things like rush distance, so I'm not gonna know those details on this kind of map. It plays like a StarCraft 2 map. We got the pylon. And I promise you, if you just sit there and practice your goon versus zealot micro... Oh, interesting. Okay, look at this. This might be a... one of those players that are trying to, you know... trying to manor pylon. Okay. The most important thing is to be calm. Don't let them keep manor piloning you. Right? You should continue on with your build. Oh, it looks like I actually got my probe out, which is actually quite nice. Don't let them manor pylon you again. Oh, looks like that's oh, looks like we're just playing against this. Okay. If you use about 7 workers, then you should be able to effectively block this, and you just basically kill the gateway before it actually produces anything. I mean, I don't know what he's really doing, but... Basically, you know, I mean, like, you just don't panic. Like, if you have, like, 3 or 4 workers, as long as you have enough to just, like, make enough, stuff, like, it really should be fine. Now that I have like enough DPS, like I'm not really worried about too much here. Oops. Now we can go ahead and tech. I mean, all that, even if he gets like 1 zealot out, like, so what, right? Go ahead and scout. So notice how like through all of this stuff, I'm just kind of calmly going about just, you know, my build. You just basically fire it down one by one, and like basically whenever anybody does this kind of play, they're basically just trying their best job to basically just tilt you, right? And so if you allow yourself to get tilted, then, you know, what's gonna happen is you're gonna lose the game. And so it's like they're sending another probe, which is hilarious. Let's see what they're up to back at home. 15 zealots, 2 gateways. So it looks like they're kind of just playing on. Let's see if I can block. Nope. Is he trying to mana pile on me again? So funny. Again, we're just gonna play on with our build, which is to just go straight into just gonna go straight into robotics. Again, we're just trying to play as stable as possible. Can go ahead and stay back if we want. Against this kind of clowny player, like honestly, they might have a base, a nexus somewhere, but let's just not scout it, and let's just try to deal with it calmly, right? We know we're ahead, so maybe let's just go ahead and take an expansion. And then continuously make a bunch of dragoons. And then when that observatory, I mean the robotics is done, we can go ahead and make an observatory. And then from there, we'll just go ahead and make some reavers. Generally speaking, if you're like worried about what they're doing, or if you're gonna die to a push, especially if you're expanding, it's really good practice to just send a probe out. Just send a probe out like right there, and or like here, and then just rally it back home. It's totally fine. One probe isn't gonna change anything, and it's gonna make you feel a lot safer. I also like to make scouter pylons at the edge of my base. See, so there's gonna be nothing, right? It's also good to just make like scouter stuff like around, you know, around here, you know. If they're going for a Dark Templar, you know, we want to make sure we don't die to it, so we can just leave the observer out there. Let's transfer maybe 10 probes so we get some good mining going. Keep making workers. Again, I don't really see any you know, Dark Templars, right? Again, just for good measure. When in doubt, just, you know, if you're playing safe, okay, there it is. You know, there's a giant attack coming. I think that might be kind of big. Target fire. He's just eating all my shots. Target fire, the money shots. So he got the reaver, but really At what cost, right? The zealots do insane amounts of DPS. Again, we're just playing it chill, right? You know, I'm just a chill guy. Right? He's gonna come in again, and again, it's good to just spread our goons out. Looks like he just sending units non-stop, like a champ. Target fire. 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 Yeah, so we're not really trying to do our best job, you know, like absolutely punishing them and winning. I'm just trying to play as stable as possible. Stable as possible. No punishing. Like, no, I mean, no, like, technical punishes, just like obvious kind of playing, making units. When in doubt, just, you know, sit there and make more units, right? Notice, like, with my observer, I didn't send it out because just in case they have Dark Templars, you don't want to lose to these things. So basically, in those kinds of situations, you just want to make sure you plug in all of the ways you could possibly lose. And as you're macroing, just, you know, you just kind of play it safe, right? Don't worry too much about the right answer or the right play all the time, okay? I feel like when people worry too much about the right answer and the right play all the time, they start shutting off their own brains, right? It's good to study, like pro VODs, it's good to study things, but at the same time, try to exercise your own reasoning, right? Exercise your own reasoning, exercise your own decision making, exercise having a explicit game plan, right? And then from there, you just kind of iterate. That is the game of StarCraft. You don't only want to copy, okay? Copying is good, but you want to exercise your own thought and your own strategies. Not one stream, this is just kind of a series. I have to feed my baby in about 45 minutes. It's more just, it's also meant to be a educational stream. Okay, we're gonna double search. Alright, again, if we find a 12 hatchery, which means the hatchery was made right at around 145, we're gonna cannon rush it. Okay. We're gonna cannon rush. No, I think I messed that up. Does this work? Well, I have 2 probes. Usually two cannons can be good. If they counter rush you like this, then it can be dangerous. Go ahead and cancel that cannon and just make sure we don't die over here, right? That's just the main objective here. Make another cannon, bring a bunch of probes, and you know, just don't die, right? It's okay if this is like not the most efficient play, but it's better to over defend, right? It's better to over defend than to just die. Better to over defend than just die. Right? And again, I could go back and, you know, put these, you know, probes back and be more efficient with all this stuff, but I choose not to. But now that my second cannon's up, looks like this guy's gonna play on. We're just gonna keep defending. And we're gonna go on. Oh, looks like he's still out there. Going with their build. So, I mean, the game's kind of gone into a strange state, right? But we know that we are reasonably ahead here, right? Reasonably ahead. Or very ahead, rather. And again, we're not playing the most optimal. We're not playing the most efficient, right? We're just trying to prioritize the right things. That's okay. We're gonna play on. Now that we have a zealot, go up. Once our gas allows us to, we'll get +1 weapons. Now this +1 weapons is not really very optimal, again, just because, you know, build is not very nice. Let's go ahead and make a citadel. Now, the reality is, we never looked into their main base as to what they're doing. We do know that they, at the very least, made a lot of links, so their economy is not very good, right? However, we don't know if it's like a 2-hatch muta, right? So just for safety, I would recommend just make a cannon in your main base. Another cannon over here. You know, basically for these kinds of like strange situation, I just feel like it's just good practice to just not die, right? Now, you can argue for making more cannons up front, but that's okay because we already have 2 cannons, and if you have 2 cannons, then, you know, not that you're like completely safe, but generally speaking, you could, you know, like, you don't have 1 cannon. You're not at crazy risk of dying. We're gonna get a gas. Our gas is slightly late, mainly because we've been prioritizing cannons to not die to some sort of donkey muta attack. We're then gonna get a Templar Archives. Then when we have money, we're gonna just throw down 2 more gateways. Again, we're just gonna play a Sairless, strong Sairless build and just try to, you know, get as many zealots as we can. Now, I'm not gonna move out with my zealots quite yet, just because I don't really know what my opponent's doing. If it's more of a normal game, I might move out a little bit more. Sometimes it's also good measure to just like send your probe over there and rally it back home. Just so that you don't get kind of bamboozled by any sort of like crazy run-bys. Just because this game is obviously kind of strange, right? Oh, look at that. We found exactly what they're up to. Might be like some sort of insane slow lurker drop. Or perhaps it is a frontal bust. Again, there's not really an easy way to kind of deal with these kinds of situations, other than to just dealing with them. And again, you know, this is very frustrating, but, you know, just be patient. Nothing wrong with just a little bit of patience. Now that we have our... And really, now it's just game over, right? Like, nothing they can really do. Let's just go out and attack. You know, could they be attacking with some sort of strange drop play, or... Sure. Do I care? Not really. Just because almost certainly they will not be able to block this attack. Gonna make some stuff there. Looks like he's going for a doom drop. Of course he is. Okay, you know, in that case, unfortunately, we're gonna just... you know, be a little safer than usual. Unfortunately, the game has evolved into this kind of game. One of the best ways to not get too carried away by, you know, your opponent playing like this is splitting up your army. And like, that sounds really obvious, but it's really a lot more it's really not as obvious as we think. So we're gonna go ahead and attack. And we're just gonna go ahead and let him do what he wants over there. He doesn't even have a base. We're gonna make some cannons. Splitting up your army is like a really good way to just not, you know, get pulled apart, you know. Oh my god, do I not have... I don't have dragoon range. Oh, no wonder. Oh man, that actually might hurt. Okay, that's why I was struggling a lot more than I wanted to. Another good thing in general is like players tend to like sneak bases in these kinds of like donkey games. So, you know, it's sometimes a good idea to just like look for them. Just look for them, see if you can find them. There it is. Okay, so this game might be a lot more difficult than I had anticipated it to be. But it's okay. We're gonna try to stay calm. I was hoping I could just end him right there, but unfortunately I couldn't. And unfortunately we're just gonna have to play on. So in these kinds of situations, it is important to... Basically, what we're going to try to do is we're going to use our eco advantage to try and bust one of these bases, which might be very difficult to actually do. But we're going to try it. And we're going to try fighting, okay? And it's, again, like I said, if we lose, then we lose. That's okay. We tried. I also like to re-rally all of my stuff over there. Given that our opponent is also, you know, in a turtly mood, we can go ahead and try to take our other base. Usually when you get into this game, getting Templar energy is usually a good idea. Maybe like even pumping up the gateway count is a good idea. See if we can get something done here. I don't know if we can. Let's just try to see what we're up against. Is he just massing sunken colonies? It's a lot, unfortunately. Let's see the other base. It's also good to try and get like some observer speed. Looks like the bridge is not quite occupied over there. Move our zealots back. Try to make some cannons over here. And again, let's just focus on our attack here. Okay. But what do we want to do? If there's a lurker in range, let's try to get it, right? And this is actually a good practice. Looks like he just sniped that. It's okay. Here. Boom. And one good thing is like snipe, storm. Oh, that didn't kill it? That's crazy. Storm plus goon will kill that, right? It's generally good practice, again, to just focus all of your attention here. And we're just going to send our goons in first with maybe a couple of zealots to just kind of snipe that down. And again, one by one, we're going to try to storm, okay? Storm, 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 storm. Storm. And then like slowly you might try to Rambo in. Now you can send everything else in. Again, notice how, you know, he's gonna kill all that. That's okay. But notice how I spent all of my attention focusing on that attack. And like in between, I'll try to macro, right? And because I am focusing on my attention on the right things, he's having a much harder time defending all of this. Because I didn't just donkey all my units in. Again, you can just focus on storming really, really well. Storm is very good. And again, notice how I'm not like playing super duper crazy fast or anything like that. And we just busted him very cleanly, right? And it's important to be clean in your attacks, especially against dirty Zerg players. Get your upgrades, and then when you come back home, try to attack again. You can try to even take their base. Oh, look at that. Their army is coming over there. And I imagine he's going to have a really difficult time doing much of anything else. We can send a zealot over there. Send a zealot over there. And again, we can just kind of do the same thing, right? He's got a lot of stuff over there. But just for practice, right? Let's just practice the kind of motion, okay? Spread, spread, zealots kind of behind, goons up front, okay? Oh, looks like he has defilers. That's kind of annoying, but it's okay. You know, that's unfortunate. Let's see if we can get some free snipes off. Boom. 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 Morph into an Archon. There's one right there. Can we get that? Yes, we can. And again, I'm not really playing super crazy. Storm. Again, it's not like the most efficient storm. Let's see if I can get one more. Can I get one more? Okay. And I feel like maybe I can just Rambo in. Let's just try it. Again, let's try to keep all of our stuff alive. Try to storm if we can, but might be kind of hard. The Rambo, I'm taking a lot of damage here. Got some Dark Swarm, Storm, Storm, Storm. And I think we did it, right? See, notice like I'm floating 5,000 minerals, right? And that's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, if you can't fight well, then just float your minerals and just focus on attacking, right? Again, like the game is about prioritization. Don't like split your prioritization. And, you know, like if you lose because you're not macroing well enough, then just lose, right? That's okay. But you don't want to lose because you had the units and you didn't like micro them well enough, right? And things like, you know, Templar Storm and like doing everything that I did, it's not really like, I'm not doing anything very complicated, right? It's not like Muta micro, it's not like Reaver micro. I'm just like spreading them out. I'm just storing things one by one. When I use Reavers, I also just attack with my Reavers one by one, just controlling one unit, right? And the amount of value you can get by just controlling that one unit is very high, especially at these kinds of levels, right? You could, you know, like, because your opponent isn't focusing their attention on the combat, you could get so much more value out of it. And again, that's just the point of what we're trying to learn here. And then as we rank up, maybe if I get to A rank, then I'll start to multitask a little bit more. But I feel like I feel like there are certain situations where I don't really have to multitask as much, especially in primary combat. Alright, we got a Terran player. This will be the last game before I have to go feed the baby. Yo, Tasteless, up, man? Okay. Like I said, I'll repeat myself. We're playing Terran. Against Terran, we're going to actually swap our playstyle to be more macro-focused. Right? Everything I said before in the last game was micro-focused because we're playing PvZ and those combat situations are very, very important. It's obviously important in PvT as well, but lower level PvT is really difficult to play a control-focused style, which is using reavers and, you know, early zealot micro tends to be a little bit harder to pull off. So we're going to play a very vanilla macro-oriented style. And again, we're able to do that because PROTOSS units they function better than Terran units when both players are not microing very well, which is why you have, you know, so many PROTOSS players at lower ranks. And we're going to abuse that to get to S rank. And then once you get to S rank, you're on your own. Because Terran's rigged. Terran is rigged. So I encourage all PROTOSS players to get to S rank and then quit. Make Artosis mad and then just leave. Don't focus on getting better past S rank because it's gonna be a long journey. But you can make Artosis mad without really microing very well. Just make a bunch of stuff. That said, you know, if you're inspired by the focus on reaver control in PvT, then, you know, if you want to play reaver style in PvT, go for it. It's the best style, in my opinion. 216 SCV Scout, this most likely means it's a Rax expand that's closest to me, unless it's some sort of Clown Town build. So let's see if my intuition is correct. Or maybe they're just B rank and doing something, I don't know, who knows. Okay, we're gonna play 23 Nexus. It's always good to get like a damage on the SCV if you can, just because they can't recover it. Goon, core, attack, attack. Nice. So I got 2 shots down, which means I only have to hit it 4 times with my goon. Scout with the first goon. Most likely it's going to be close spawn unless we're up against some sort of, again, Clown Towny build. Maybe, I don't know, I don't know. Sometimes, you never know. You never know. At these levels, people do all sorts of things. Alright. Boom, boom. Scout with the goon. We can scout with the goon because we have the second goon right away afterwards to block any sort of vultures coming in. So that second goon is going to block that ramp. Our 23rd probe, or the probe on 23, is going to make the Nexus. Right after the Nexus, we're going to make a pylon to begin our wall. The pylon is going to enable us to also build a shield battery if we need to. And boom, that's a Rax expand. So, Rax expand, unfortunately, is, you know, really bad for us. But that's okay. We're just going to play on. I would say this only gets really, really bad once you start hitting like the higher levels. At the lower levels, it's okay. Just deal with it. Move on with your build. You make the Robo ASAP, then your third goon. After third goon, then you squeeze in the gateway. Again, we're gonna play very vanilla. We're not going to punish the Rax expand. We're not gonna do anything else other than to just play very vanilla. And again, the way that I knew that was most likely Rax expand is because the Terran player scouts on 12 with Rax expand, and then if it's factory expand, they scout on 13. So therefore, the you know, your scouting information comes by a little bit faster, or they come by a little bit faster. Just a little tip in case you see a really fast SCV. We're gonna punch down the barracks. And then our objective here is we're gonna try to make 6 goons. And as we make 6 goons, we're gonna make our 3rd nexus. Okay, and for every minute or every second that we can punch down that bunker, we do a little bit of damage to slow them down, but unfortunately this slowing down is not very great. It's not, we're still going to be very behind, and that's just unfortunate. That's just the reality of Rax Expand. It's just a very strong build, and we're going to be behind no matter what. After we get our 6 goons, which we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 2 more out, we're going to go ahead and make our 3rd base. And we're also going to start our pylon wall. It's always good practice to just have a pylon wall. And we're going to back up. Because he has Siege Expand. Siege Expand is okay. Because I would much rather them play Siege than to be going Vulture Mines. This means the Terran is in a very defensive stance. We're going to go ahead and throw down 2 more gateways. Because we're going to play a very stable style. Very, very, very stable style, okay? And we're going to make a couple of extra goons. But the most important thing is this. Let's see what they're up to. If they are making a bunch of, okay, 4 factories, then we want to prioritize making units. 5, no, it's 4 factories. I presume they don't have, or they cannot have a armory with this, right? So this looks like a timing push. So we want to prioritize making goons not stop. Now, if they didn't have that, then I would prioritize something else. Looks like they're coming out. It could be very dangerous. Rush up to 6 gateways. Let's see if we can stop this. Okay, let's try to prioritize our attack. When they start getting here, if they get there, let's see if we can spread out and target fire the tanks! Boom! 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 Oh, make sure we don't. Oh, I fired myself! Oh, snap! Let's get the tanks. Let's see if we can get it. Let's see if we can get it. Okay, we messed that up a little bit. Tanks. Tanks. Move the probes away. Okay, we successfully defended. That was a little bit sweaty there. A little sweaty. But we got it. And the important part here is that we didn't like lose. Oh, looks like he's actually trying to continue. Good admin. Looks like he's very, very persistent. forward. See if we can actually save that base. Unfortunately, we can't save it. That's okay. But we are okay, right? Because our opponent is just non-stop attacking. But it's okay. We'll get leg upgrades. Again, we're trying our best, Drop, to just, you know, not trying to play in such a way that, like, you know, just wins because of superior mechanics, right? Our economy is, you know, pretty stable after all that. Let's see if he opts to actually expand, or if he's gonna try for another clown town attack. Move up to 8 gateways. Looks like he's actually just continuing to attack. It's actually insane. In that case, we will prioritize our macro. Move back. And just wait patiently. Oh my god, that was not what I wanted to do. Just see if we can go and bust this. Try to target fire. Move your tanks forward. Target fire. I mean your goons forward. Target fire. Just try to do that. Let's try to see if we can also snipe this one over there. Get this back. And target fire. He's like wants to get fancy with vultures. Don't let them run by. And just playing very, very safe. Slowly move into our tech, into Arbiter tech. Start focusing on our macro because we killed his army like effectively twice. I'm really not worried about any sort of attack again. Now he would have to be really crazy out of his mind to continue attacking like this. And again, generally speaking, what we want to do is just like rebuild our goon counts to about 20, 24, right? Like that's just generally speaking a good number to have. He must be expanding. Like I can't imagine a universe where he's not expanding. There it is. And now in this situation, what we want to do is, again, just play it very calm. You know, let's make some cannons, you know. Again, we want to make sure we really bank up that count. I love getting observer speed, right? You know, try to clear out stuff. And we're just going to play very, very vanilla Arbiter. Start to clear out some more mines as we get ready for like a 5th base. Let's also start making some more gateways. It's really good to have like 10 or 12 gateways at least. Yeah, just make sure you don't really get screwed over by these, like, you know, this guy really seems to enjoy running around with his vultures, so just don't like easily lose to that. I'm gonna start making some more forges. And once we start getting into this phase, you start feeling very comfortable, right? Is he trying to attack? Now we just want to like slowly monitor when he's gonna attack. And we're just gonna wait for our Arbiter and Stasis, and we're gonna play a very simple Arbiter Stasis type of play. No Storm. I mean, we'll go Recall, but we're gonna slowly make our 5th base. It's always preferable to make your 5th base like at another main base, just because it just really helps to get another thing. Okay, he's gonna attack. We want to get into a nice little arc, the arc that Artosis hates. He is sieging. Sometimes you can try to like get value against some of these vultures that kind of move up forward, right? And you notice how I'm constantly trying to, you know, stay in an arc, right? And then when I'm ready, I want to move in, okay? Notice you don't want to move in when... Okay, now he's unsieged. Now we can move in. Try to go in. I'm gonna macro back at home. See if I could even run in the zealots right on top of the tanks. And we want to remake what? Dragoons, guys. Dragoons. Dragoons. Looks like we got the best of him. Oh, dangerous. Now, if we didn't remake Dragoons, we would lose map control immediately. Okay. See how he's just moving out with all those vultures? If they're very good at vulture control, then it's very dangerous to not have Dragoons. The most important unit to kind of prioritize is Dragoons. Seems like we're just playing against one of these players that loves microing vultures. This guy is getting way too hasty with his attacks, and we're just gonna go ahead and punish him. And we're gonna macro in between, and we're gonna win.